Marty Romiti with the University Economic Development Association, and we're so excited to be coming to Huntsville, Alabama, for our October conference, Teresa. And one of the reasons is, Huntsville really stands out uh, for its incredible economy and how higher education institutions like yours at Alabama A&M University and others play in helping that growth. So I don't know all you want me to say, Teresa, but just to thank you very much, Huntsville, for being our host, and looking forward to being down there in October.
Okay, great. And also, Marty, maybe you can place in the chat your information about CREC. CREC is our managing partner. They serve as our dedicated staff, executive staff persons for UEDA. So, yeah, listen, in my Southern way, I just want to say welcome and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. This is an opportunity certainly for us to kick off the fabulous summit that we'll host in Huntsville during October 6th through 9. And we're also planning a pre-conference and a post-conference sessions that you will hear more about a bit later. But I want to introduce a person who has certainly supported the community and has been just a real invaluable source to our work at Alabama A&M University in Huntsville, Alabama. Mr. Ken Smith, thank you so very much for joining us today and for your sincere dedication in helping us to move the needle on so many fronts. And I can also say a team that Ken will be instrumental in helping us to build out the program and logistics for the upcoming summit. So Mr. Ken Smith currently serves as the Senior Executive Development Director for the Huntsville Madison County Chamber. But his impact on the region goes much farther than that title. With more than 30 years of experience in economic development and strategic growth planning, Ken has played a major role in shaping Huntsville into the dynamic, fast-growing, innovative hub that we see today. Thank you so very much, Ken, for your leadership, you and your entire team. He has led highly strategic and significant efforts in industry recruitment, workforce development, and market strategy, helping position this region for long-term sustainable success. He's a proud native of Huntsville, and his passion for the community comes through in every conversation and every action that he takes. He holds degrees in industrial organizational psychology and public administration, and he's a graduate of both Georgia Tech's Economic Development Program and the University of Oklahoma Economic Development Institute. Ken, we are so happy and so honored to have you to join us today to kick off this pre-summit series. And team, if you would, attendees, if you would please join me in welcoming Mr. Ken Smith. And you may do that, Miss Floyd. Can we raise our hands or play the song Boots?
I can just imagine the thundering applause. So I really appreciate that, Dr. Rourke.
Good.
And I would just say that it's very good to have a strong partner with Alabama A&M University. We are I can't be more excited to be here with you guys to help kick off the summit in October. Hopefully, I'll be able to meet each of you in person here in Huntsville in October. I know we are strong supporters for all things economic development and in the Huntsville community. Very strong supporters of our universities, both Alabama A&M, University of Alabama at Huntsville, Oakwood University here as well, and our business community. So with that, if you're ready for me, then I can share my screen and have a little presentation here that kind of talk about our economy and where we're headed. All right. So with that, this was what I was asked to talk about today. Huntsville Now, our growth, our vision, and why it matters. And as was stated earlier, Huntsville does have a very strong economy. Probably one of the reasons why the association decided that this would be a good place to come and hold your summit in October. So this kickoff webinar is really just a chance for you to get to know Huntsville. It's our introduction to you. Look forward to your questions at the end. And also, Dr. O'Rourke, if you'd like to interrupt and jump in at any time, very flexible with that. We had a luncheon today with 1,000 people and a 3-star general making an annual speech. And my job, I had one job to do, and that was to push the button when the general said, play the video. So I pushed the button and nothing happened. And so my heart skipped a beat or two, and then pushed the button again, and the video played. So the hard part for me today has already been done. It's already over. So this is the easy part. Talking about Huntsville community economic development is what we do every day. So I look forward to sharing with you today. All right, let's see. All right, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Being a Huntsville native is kind of a good introduction to Huntsville itself. I grew up in Huntsville Public Schools, read the newspaper back when people used to read the newspaper every day, and was just always excited about the activities, the growth happening in the community, and just knew that I wanted to be part of that somehow one day. And so here I am. I've ended up at the Chamber of Commerce helping to make things happen. Now, our style of economic development is a little bit different, I think, than maybe the university-related economic development. Whereas from the Chamber standpoint, we really focus on, you could call it industry recruitment. So we're more on that traditional economic development side, where we're working with large companies, small companies, in competition for where the companies will locate to create jobs and create new investment. But that's not to say we don't partner with our universities. We certainly do, to encourage innovation, entrepreneurship, grants. Federal funding is very important to our local universities. Research and directly funded research, we will support that. But our bread and butter from the Chamber of Commerce standpoint is more your traditional industry recruitment, both large companies and small companies, and working with our existing industries to help them grow. So I knew I wanted to be a part of that. My family was from Mississippi. I can't see on the webinar what universities each of you potentially represent. But as the bio stated, I started off at Mississippi State. Actually worked and lived with a former U.S. Senator in Mississippi, John Stennis. John Stennis was the president of the U.S. Senate. He retired to live on campus there. So in grad school, I was able to live with him and be his personal aide, focused on public administration, and then came straight from Mississippi State to work at the Chamber of Commerce in economic development. As stated before, studied coursework in economic development at Georgia Tech, and then the Economic Development Institute at the University of Oklahoma, which is a 4-year institute. And then currently, I am in the MIT Sloan Executive Education Program, studying international macroeconomics, which has been coming in handy recently with all the uncertainty with tariffs happening, and being able to understand that a lot better. So really to help our companies as well and help us understand our economy. So some of what I have is a lot of numbers. I like the numbers. I like how the numbers tell a story, especially when you're speaking with a company who doesn't know the market, and they can see the numbers and understand the numbers, especially when they're making multi-million-dollar decisions on where to locate the future of their company. So with that, the Chamber of Commerce in Huntsville does a lot. We contract with the city of Huntsville. So a lot of people think we're a public entity or part of the city. We're not. We are a private membership-based organization with about 2,000 members, 2,000 private companies that have joined the Chamber of Commerce. We also have several of those companies that provide funding for us to go do economic development over and above their membership fees. So that's how we raise our funds. And then the third arm is the sponsorship events, like the luncheon that we have today with the generals from Redstone Arsenal with about 1,000 people. We have corporate tables, people sponsor and provide funding in that way. We also manage Cummings Research Park. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation, but Cummings Research Park is the second largest research park in the country. It is actually, our University of Alabama at Huntsville is actually located within the borders of Cummings Research Park. So I know a lot of your universities might have a research park as well. And I know this was kind of a new thing that started in the 1960s. Our Research Triangle Park and Cummings Research Park were one of the two first research parks in the country. They had to write new zoning ordinances and they collaborated on that actually. And I say this to mention that Aaron Koshut, some of you may know, through the Association of University related research parks, sits in the office next to mine. She would join the webinar today. She's in a meeting with the Consul General from Canada right now. So she could not make that, but give a shout out to Erin and some of y'all. I'm sure you'll have a chance to meet her and talk with her about research park activity in October when you come to Huntsville. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about the chamber. And so what we'll talk about now, we'll jump into Huntsville's growth and look at what has happened over the past several years. So some of you might not have ever been to Huntsville, might not have had the chance to know much about our community, and that's not uncommon. A lot of times, jokingly, I may talk to people if we're in New York, California, say, well, have you heard of Alabama? And do you know where Alabama is? And so we kind of start there. So Huntsville is not on the beaten path. We are not a tourist destination, although we do have good tourist activities here with the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. Space Camp was born in Huntsville. If we're known for anything, we're known as the Rocket City. You know, we're the birthplace of America's space program, but then again, we're not necessarily a tourist destination on the map. So what that means is the growth that we've had is we're a business community and a quality of life, good place to live. And that really all started, I have a timeline I'll talk about, but really our legacy of innovation, we kind of changed from a typical Southern town. And our start was really when Wernher von Braun and the German rocket team were brought to the U.S. after World War II. So it's kind of like pre-Wernher von Braun and post German rocket team. And that really created a legacy of innovation in our community that has continued to grow over the past 60 years into a very strong, diversified economy. We've had a lot of forward-thinking leaders to build infrastructure, is really drawn and attracted a workforce to this community. And then the quality of life is really one of the key pieces that we're focused on right now. And then the support that the Chamber of Commerce gives to companies to help locate and grow in our community is kind of our strength and our bread and butter. So to talk about that, this is kind of an overview. You can't fit everything on a timeline, but back in the 1940s, World War II, there was a munitions base, a U.S. Army base here in Huntsville. It was called Redstone Arsenal, still is called Redstone Arsenal today, but after the World War II, was not needed anymore. And so it's more surplus infrastructure. And then basically the Werner von Braun German rocket team came over to the U.S., originally went out to Fort Bliss, Texas, in the middle of the desert, pretty much in barbed wire. For a year, their families were not able to join them. They did a lot of testing. They were almost considered, they called themselves prisoners of peace, really, since the war was over. But still, the U.S. did not exactly know how to treat them or what to do with them. After a couple of years, the opportunity, they needed to expand, they needed to grow, and they're looking for a location to move the German rocket team. And through political situation, and because we had the excess infrastructure, they decided to move the German rocket team to Huntsville on the shuttered Redstone Arsenal. And the German rocket team really took to Huntsville. They loved the green trees, the mountains, the river, reminded them of Germany. It was much different than the desert. And they really kind of integrated, made a home in Huntsville. In fact, we have a mountain here in Huntsville called Montesano Mountain. If you come here, there's a state park. It's a great place to go. But many of the German rocket team families built houses and lived on top of the mountain and kind of created their own community on top of the mountain. And it's really interesting how the Huntsville community accepted the scientists into their culture here. You remember this is shortly after World War II. Alabama was not necessarily known as a forward-thinking, welcoming state at the time. But really, Huntsville has this, I mentioned, that legacy of innovation. It's really just kind of started with the community being open-minded, accepting, and really embracing the scientists and engineering talent that came into the community. So really, I mentioned, post Werner von Braun, we were just a typical Southern community, about probably about 40,000 people. Then really our birth grew when the German rocket team came, and then our growth was instigated from that. So with that, everything, and the Germans were part of the U.S. Army at this time. NASA wasn't created, so they were part of the U.S. Army. They were not civilians. They're not U.S. citizens. Many of them did become U.S. citizens several years later. And so for about 10 years, they worked for the Army. And then when NASA was created, and the idea of trying to go to the moon after Sputnik, then the Marshall Space Flight Center was created on Redstone Arsenal within the gates. And so one day, the German rocket team were Army employees, and the next day they were given new badges and they became NASA employees. So that's kind of part of that history. And from that, Huntsville has had a key role in NASA. And that's what we're really known for, through the satellite programs with Explorer, the testing programs, the Saturn programs as well. A lot of that research and technology was done in Huntsville on Redstone Arsenal. In fact, America's first satellites were launched on Redstone rockets, and that comes from being designed and developed at Redstone Arsenal. So all the way through the moon landing. Actually, our Cummings Research Park was developed at that time. It was developed at the instigation of Werner von Braun and his team. And in fact, the university was developed as well. So we had the scientists that needed additional education, higher degree programs. And so University of Alabama in Huntsville was created to provide those PhD level engineers a place where industry, academia, and government could all work together for common purposes. And so the vision was having a research park where that could support the work that was happening with the German rocket team. And at this time, it was more than just the 180 German rocket team, but people from all throughout the country had started to move to Huntsville and to be part of the space race and the space program. So we really grew up during that space race era. And with that came companies. A lot of companies were developed. Companies like Spacecraft Incorporated, which went by SCI, which became a Fortune 500 company back in that day. We had other Fortune 500 companies founded in Huntsville. Intergraph Corporation was one of those that grew up supporting the space program as well. So everything from the moon landing and on, the space science part of that, America's first space station with Skylab. In fact, I was kind of joking with somebody today. I actually have a piece of Skylab at home that was given to Senator Stennis, and he gave it to me. So it's just one of those random things that I actually have a piece of Skylab. But then the space shuttle, the Huntsville Marshall Center was very instrumental in the booster technology for the rocket boosters and engines, as well as the science activity for the space shuttle. And along that time, the Huntsville community realized, especially with the ups and downs of the space program, that the economy did not need to be 100% dependent on government federal funding. So there was a strong diversification effort put into attracting international companies, manufacturing companies. You see the logo for Lucky Gold Star for LG Electronics. So Huntsville was the very first location for a Korean manufacturing investment in North America. So LG Gold Star at the time was located to Huntsville. Other companies grew up, Dynetics, Adtran. We started international cargo service from our international airport, which we, is very strong today, one of the top 25 international air cargo centers. And then also, moving into today with, well, in the 90s, the Hubble Space Telescope, but even the James Webb Space Telescope now, the International Space Station, Boeing here in Huntsville, they have about 3,000 employees, and they built all of the parts, the modules for the U.S. portion of the International Space Station here in Huntsville, and they continued diversification as smart people came into the community, and you had companies that were doing both DoD work, NASA work, and then they were spinning off, commercial technologies too. So it's very important to diversify and not just be on federal government funding. That was very key to us. So now from there, started to really look at other industries like biotechnology, looking at becoming, having the technical infrastructure to support both the companies and the people who live here, being one of the nation's first, gig cities. And then other international, you see on the slide, non-DoD growth in manufacturing, such as Mazda and Toyota, both have a joint OEM manufacturing here. And one thing that's really interesting, Huntsville International Airport is public commercial airport, but is designated the first spaceport in the country, which is what allows Sierra Nevada to land their Dream Chaser space plane here. So we're looking for customers for their space plane. So if you have any university research projects that need access to space for science and technology, then Huntsville is the place to do that. So we're excited about that future. All right, so talking about our economy, Huntsville is very strong, growing rapidly. We're not a boom town, but strong, steady growth. About $11 billion over the past 10 years in new industrial investment, 24,000 new jobs, and really we have about a 30% employment growth, which is about 3% a year. Aerospace and defense is our bread and butter. That's not all that we are. In fact, about 25% of our employment is aerospace and defense. But of that, we have about 36 of the leading federal contractors. Several companies, over 50 from 18 different countries, and almost 60 Fortune 500 companies. What we do like is, since we're not a large city, we're a kind of a mid-sized city, about 1.3 million people in the region. But we have been recognized for our economy by the Milken Institute, by real estate groups like C.B. Richard Ellis, talking about our tech potential. So looking towards the future, which is what we want to do. Now, I'm a numbers guy. I like looking at the numbers, what the story tells. So this population shows our growth. Mentioned from 2000 to 2024, Huntsville has grown about almost 60% compared to the U.S. growth. So that's over twice the rate of growth in population. And then so we're growing about that 2.5% per year over 24-year period. But that started to ramp up, you can see here, and we're over about 3% per year over the last 5 years in population growth. The same can be said for our employment. Again, starting in 2000, Huntsville employment has grown about 60% per year compared to the U.S. at about 24% per year. I like looking at this because you can see the recession here in 2008. You can also see the dramatic drop in COVID, and Huntsville, we can show, bounced back in about 12 months versus the U.S. It took a couple of years to actually bounce back. It has really not fully recovered on the same trajectory that the U.S. overall, where you can see Huntsville's employment growth really didn't stop, and it's really at that 3.8% per year right now over the past 5 years. So it's starting to take off a little bit more than what the U.S. is doing. All right, so now where is that growth occurring in our economy? This is information on employment growth over the past 10 years, so 2015 to 2025. I like this because you can see most of our employment, our largest sector, is in professional and business services. That's your engineering growth and technical talent. And we've added about 17,000 people over the past 10 years at a growth rate of about 3.3% per year. Government is also very strong. It's our second largest industry sector, and it's growing about 2.4% per year. It's interesting, manufacturing, which is our third largest industry sector, really doesn't have a lot to do with DoD. There's a little bit of DoD manufacturing here, but it's really more on the automotive and industrial side. It's our fastest growing sector at over 5% per year. And then transportation, although it's not a large part of our total industry, growing about 8.4% per year. A lot of that is due to retail sales going online. So, Amazon has built 2 different distribution centers here. We've had other companies doing the same thing. So transportation distribution has been a big area for us as we become more of a larger metro in kind of the center for economic activity in our region. So we talked a little bit about Redstone Arsenal and what is it now. So Redstone, I mentioned, is a U.S. Army installation. However, there are over 65 different federal organizations based on the arsenal. It's not just one large organization. There's not a whole lot of military uniformed officers on base. There's about 45,000 workers who work there every day. But what we like to think about it is kind of like a mutual fund that's very diversified. With those 65 different federal organizations, there's 65 different budgets that are being accounted for. So one budget may be up in one year. There's talk about cutting NASA's budget across the board right now as well. NASA is one of those of 65 federal organizations. Some others include the Army Material Command, which is the three-star general who was speaking today at lunch, the Missile Defense Agency, Space and Missile Defense Command, the Army Aviation Missile Command, Defense Intelligence Agency, FBI, ATF, the Army Futures Command, Homeland Security. So the list goes on. And it's really what we consider is considered nationally as a federal center of excellence. So what does that mean to you or to our economy, to our universities? It means there's a lot of opportunity there. The agencies on Redstone account for about $50 billion in federal contracts, federal budget, which means they manage that money. Not all that money stays in Alabama or in Huntsville, but is managed and distributed, throughout the country, throughout the world in contracts. Huntsville does manage our local companies. Universities managed to capture about $7 billion of that. So there's a lot more room for us to grow, and if we only capture just a little bit more of that, then that's will be really helping our economy. So that is Redstone Arsenal. I know hopefully when you come in October, you're able to go onto the base or hear briefs or presentations for the opportunities that are there through SBIR, STTR, and other programs that are available to universities for sponsored research. With that, Cummings Research Park, that's where a lot of our companies are located, right outside the gate of Redstone Arsenal. It is about 300 different companies. I mentioned the second largest research park in the country, about 26,000 workers who work there every day. What is interesting is, UAH, a university, about 9,000 students, is located within the park. So trying to really create that park-like atmosphere. About students also with the university, there's also 2 high schools located within the research park. One of those I'll talk about. And it's also the home for our Hudson Alpha Institute for Biotechnology, which is really not DoD related, and it's really a growth area for us. So a lot of research and technology happening in the park that is not DoD or NASA related, but is really founded because of DoD and NASA. I mentioned some of those aerospace defense companies, about 80,000 employees, about 25% of our total employment base. Almost every major aerospace defense company is located here. And it really goes back 60 years. Boeing has been here 60 years. The space race program, Boeing really does. Well, we talked about NASA a lot because people can understand that. They see the rocket. But what you really don't think about is, all the work that's being done for the Army in Huntsville as well on missile defense, smart missile technology, helicopters. That's really a much larger part of our economy than the NASA is. NASA is just much more recognizable. Boeing, for example, is responsible for ground-based mid-course missile defense. A lot of integration here. Does work with NASA with like the space launch system, integration. And also I mentioned NASA built, or Boeing built all of the International Space Station. And on Marshall, a lot of the space science is being managed round the clock for the International Space Station as well. Blue Origin is one of our newer companies, about 1,200 employees here, building their engines for ULA and for the Blue Origin rockets, a lot of the satellite work. And Blue Ring, they're also working on their kind of Blue Origin's multi-purpose satellite system for Blue Ring here in Huntsville. Others I won't get into too much detail. Aerojet Rocketdyne is also building their engines here in kind of their center for excellence on defense. Lockheed, PPG, Raytheon, all have long histories in Huntsville for aerospace and defense. With that, really brings a strong and very talented labor pool. I mentioned the 1.3 million people in our region. Something that we're really proud about is the highlights for our STEM workers. So a lot of people have heard of Silicon Valley, which San Jose is number one in the country for the concentration of STEM workers, but Huntsville is number 3. So we're very proud of that, and it's a good selling point, even though we're a smaller market than a San Jose, but we can be put in that same conversation. Where we really shine is our engineering workers. So we're number 1 in the country for engineering workers, and by a long margin, and most of those are those aerospace engineers doing all the missile technology work as well as NASA work. Showing our universities, there's 5 universities with about 6,300 annual degrees being awarded. And then on our junior colleges and other colleges, about 10,000 per year as well, with about 61,000 students in our region, and about 54 people per day moving to the area. That's what contributes to that 3% per year growth. So the strength of Huntsville is, even though we're not a large community, we have a very competitive workforce and talent pool, and being able to be a community that continues to grow and continues to be a place where people want to move to and to live. It's a competition right now. Just like we're in competition on bringing companies to the area, we're even more competition in bringing workers and workforce to the community. And universities plays a very large role in helping us be competitive in that. For that workforce, this is kind of our diversification effort. A lot of these companies, there are some DoD companies on this chart, but companies like Mazda, Toyota, like some Mitchell Plastics, and Polaris, for example, have nothing to do with DoD related activities. And so that's where most of the projects that we are working on at the Chamber are really on that diversification efforts. We're very proud of that. I mentioned Mazda Toyota. They are a partnership producing actually 2 different vehicles here. They have about 4,000 people on site, another couple of thousand suppliers that are located nearby producing their SUVs. Both companies have a small SUV being built here. Polaris builds ATVs, off-road 4-wheelers, basically. So that's a lot of fun here. Adtran is a homegrown company that they do what you never see. You've probably never seen the name, but companies like AT&T use all the Adtran products for their digital switching devices. So focusing on manufacturing and the manufacturing growth, especially on the high-tech manufacturing. Every project we have, we involve the universities, because that is the key to our growth, and what companies are looking for is high-tech talent. How can they be trained? How can they have the skills that they need, either on the junior college, community college level, up to the PhD level for their employees? So partnering with Alabama A&M, UAH, other technical colleges in the areas is very, very important to the work that we do. All right, so with all of this growth comes not problems, but it really leads to commercial business activity. Over the past 5 years, we've added about 100 million square feet in new total construction, about $12 billion worth of investment in the community. And as you can see, that growth really took off in 2018. This is showing total construction in the metro area. So we were running at about $1 billion a year leading up into 2018. And then we started really growing up to 2, sometimes even 3 or 4 $1 billion per year. So that's where we are now. So you might look at this and say, what happened in 2018? Well, two real things happened. One is when we landed the automotive plant from Mazda and Toyota. So that really started driving our diversification efforts in our economy. And then in 2019, we had a partnership with Facebook. Well, so Facebook data center committed to moving to Huntsville, and they've built about half of what they planned to build on their ultimately $10 billion data center campus. So really, that's been a strong driver for us as well. And I think what has really happened is both of those projects kind of put an influx of capital investment in the market, but it really helped us turn the corner and become more of a major location for other investment, including real estate, commercial activity, retail, and industrial development. So basically, we became a small player, and then people started to take notice once Mazda, Toyota, Facebook. We started to win a lot of big projects. So we are already very strong in space missile defense, but we became more of a metro area here in 2018, and we've continued that pace. On the residential side, over about $6 billion of new residential investment over the past 5 years. So you can see about 20,000 new single family houses. And then Dr. O'Rourke may make a comment on this, but over 12,000 new apartment units being built. And these are high-end apartments, investment from New York, California, other, key development groups recognizing this market and everybody wanting to be in the market and capitalize on the growth that's happening here. But it's very needed. We might have too many apartments now, but we will certainly catch up. All right, that's kind of been our growth. I don't want to take up too much time, but I will talk about our vision and where we want to go, what do we want to be in the future. So we've always been blessed by strong leadership from our city, our counties, and even our mayor right now has created several different initiatives, and they're listed here on the bottom of the screen, talking about basically these are working groups. These are topics that are important to the future of our city. And so having the best and brightest of our community working on these in an official capacity from the city of Huntsville. Biotechnology, that's a key for us as well. It's an emerging growth area for Huntsville that's not DoD related. One that is commercial as well as defense is cyber. So Cyber Huntsville Working Group has gotten together, and we talk about that. Geo Huntsville is more your GIS capabilities, is what we have a strong capability in right now. A lot of, especially on the satellites, we have companies here that help develop and use applications for GIS satellites. In fact, we even help launch and put those into space. But utilizing that technology and being a leader in geoscience. And then energy is key to us as well, especially with energy security. Especially in data centers right now are taking a lot of energy. The grid infrastructure is becoming older and outdated. So we want to make sure that we have the power needed and the infrastructure needed to carry us, into the next 60 years. Talking a little bit about that, you have vision and then you have results, right? So the Hudson Alpha Institute for Biotechnology, one of the country's key biotech centers for genetics and genomics research. In fact, the group from Stanford, I don't know if anyone is here from Stanford, but if you are, I apologize. But we stole Richard Myers, who headed the genomics department at Stanford, and he pretty much brought most of his team to Huntsville to work on genomic sequencing. And they do that for human DNA as well as animals and plants. Really focused on plant science right now. what's really interesting about Hudson Alpha is the vision for that. You can see kind of lobby here. On one side is all the researchers, and on the other side is companies who are using applied research and taking what's developed here at the Institute and turning that into commercial applications. So Hudson Alpha, this is one building. They have a campus, about 5 different buildings right now, and land available for future growth within our research park. Another vision, I mentioned cyber technology working group. One idea that came out of that group is the Alabama School for Cyber Technology and Engineering. This is a unique, first of its kind in the country, where taking the best and brightest high school students throughout the state of Alabama, putting them all in one location in a in-residence high school located within Cummings Research Park, to strictly focus on cyber engineering and cyber technology. They are partnering with our local aerospace defense companies, the FBI. Didn't mention FBI, Redstone Arsenal too much, but the FBI is moving about 5,000 jobs to Huntsville, and they're partnering with these high school students, many of which have security clearances in high school, and doing high-tech research and maybe even foregoing college and working straight for industry, because our companies know that the future of AI, the future of internet is and defense really is foundationally in cyber and electronic technology. So starting in high school is very key, and this is a innovative type of a program that's happening in Huntsville. You'll learn more about. I mentioned quality of life. This is an initiative from the city of Huntsville that has really been unique and different. Huntsville was one of the first cities in the country to hire a music officer, to have a music audit. Huntsville's not a Nashville, we're not a Los Angeles or Austin, Texas, but we want to be our own thing. And the city has put millions of dollars into infrastructure like this outdoor amphitheater, about $40 million. They've hired a music officer. And in fact, Fast Company magazine is recognized Huntsville's efforts in the music industry, and they're doing a program in New York right now where Huntsville is being recognized for our music. So completely different than what we've been talking about, but this is what it takes to attract new workers and especially young new tech talent to the community. So we're very excited about that. Other innovation initiatives. You look at Alabama A&M University, of course, you have the Center for Innovation and Economic Development with Dr. O'Rourke. The Alabama A&M is also spending money. They're adding $82 million STEM education science building at the university. University of Alabama in Huntsville also has their invention to innovation centers, kind of a more business accelerator on campus there as well, about another $10 million investment. And so, and then Cummings Research Park, I mentioned, really focused on partnering with Innovate Alabama to create a defense tech accelerator. So this is really an idea to help our local companies on that early stage companies who have the potential to pursue SBIR and some technology transfer opportunities, and to help with new technologies that are not fully developed, and to help those types of companies. So knowing that putting our efforts into innovation and areas that are really going to be important to us in the future. So that's a little bit about our growth, a little bit about our vision, what's important to us for the future. And then, so really, why do we do all this? Why does it matter? It's all about quality of life for our community. Huntsville's been ranked since 2018 as one of the top 25 best places to live in the country. And we're very excited about that. We want that to continue. We want to continue to move forward. A lot of times what we say is that if you're not moving forward, you're never going to be staying still. You're going to be moving forward or you're going to be declining. And I was looking at some numbers the other day. We're comparing Huntsville with two other communities, two other name brand high-tech communities. Huntsville and the other community were growing strong. The third community had been in decline, and that's not where we want to be. We don't want to be a boom town, but we want to be a strong, thriving community where business, universities, and government all work together for the common purpose to help strengthen and grow the economy. So our workforce is what's important, and having a quality of place that companies continue to invest in to make it a place where people want to live, want to be, want to shop, want to build houses, and to continue to make this a community that's thriving for all of our citizens. So that's really what economic development is all about for us in Huntsville. It's all about quality of life. And we want to continue to partner with our universities like Alabama A&M, Dr. Rock, and you really focus on what's important, and that's the future for what kind of legacy can we live for the future coming up behind us. So that's a little bit about that. Of course, I'm glad to meet all of you. Look forward to meeting you in person when the time comes. Would welcome you to reach out to me, to connect on LinkedIn. I'm glad to provide any offline comments or in preparation, any tips, advice in preparation for your upcoming summit in October. And with that, I will turn it back to Dr. O'Rourke and see if there's any questions. But again, I really appreciate the opportunity to address you guys today, and I'm glad to be a resource for you and for your association and anything we can do. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me? It's my camera. It's like it's not. Okay, there we go. So we are going to jump in, and does anybody have any questions? I am going to try and unmute everybody or give everybody the ability to come off and talk. And Dr. Rock, if you have any questions or anything that you want to say, you are more than welcome to kind of jump in while I do that.
Yes, please. Oh my goodness. Thank you so very much, Ken. For those of you who've known me for a while, you understand why I'm so excited about Huntsville and the people and the skills and the knowledge base and the forward thinking that rests within this, not only just within the city, but of course, across the region. So Ken, I also see a few of your other colleagues here. If I can take a few moments to have them to introduce themselves. I'm not sure if your president is here, but I do see Miss Ross, who is vice president for your business development piece there. Ashley.
Hey there, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry. I have no idea why my camera's not working. But I'm happy to be here. We're excited to have you all visit us in October and are really looking forward to that.
Okay, great. Is there anyone else here from the chamber?
I am trying to unmute and like turn on or give everybody the ability to turn on their cameras. So if y'all need to speak, raise your hand so I can maybe kind of get to you a little quicker.
Okay, and while you're doing that, I do want to say Ken referenced the just the robust activity that we have around SBIR, SCTR. And he and I were just talking before this session, and Marty and team, I did convey to him our desire to have the pre and post sessions around that. So I'll be working with him next week. And as you can tell, that is something that we certainly would embrace, and we certainly have the capabilities to make that happen. So thank you again, Ken, for agreeing to work with us on that in that area for pre and post kind of initiative during the summit. Okay, so let's hear all the wonderful questions. I've seen the chat. What did we say after hearing Ken Smith? And you all understand why he is one of my best buddies.
Mhm. Always glad to help. And
Yes, absolutely.
if there are no questions, then that's perfectly fine. But we're glad to talk about Huntsville all day long. That's what we do. And definitely look forward to seeing everybody in October.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Mhm.
Just because I graduated from A&M, and so I now live in Huntsville full time, and I've seen how Huntsville's grown since 2019 to 2025. So what are some of the ways that you guys are, I guess, trying to make sure that you're staying inclusive and not like pricing out certain residents or like small businesses and stuff, especially with all the different manufacturers and I guess the corporations and stuff coming to Huntsville?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you would think somebody would have a magic wand and you could plan out everything exactly, how you want it. There'd be, some high end, some middle end, some low end, especially in the housing. The honest answer is that most of it is market driven. So the developers are looking to make the most money that they can. And a lot of it's due to construction. Construction costs have risen as well. So to make the project actually work and to pencil out so that it breaks even and even you profit, that the cost have to be higher than what you might hope for. So really how to address that, especially on the housing side, because all of these manufacturing companies need workforce that are not paid at the engineering level, so more that mid level worker. A lot of that needs a partnership, needs a public private type partnership, and we didn't talk about all the different things the city is doing, but there is an example of that, and you can certainly look at that when you come in October for everyone. But they're partnering on the national level with development companies that do this to do public-private partnerships that you can some public subsidizing to help offset some of the costs and do mixed-use developments as well. Cities really forward thinking on this and trying to be proactive. Right now, we actually have a lot of people driving in, probably about 60,000 people a day who drive in, drive out, live in surrounding counties to work. But as more and more people move to the area, you need that mix. And so there's not a magic wand, but definitely there are smart people working on the issues to try to help, solve those problems.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And if there are no other questions, Melvin, are you responsible for the surveys and
I
the
am.
agenda? Okay, yes.
Yeah,
And this
I
is
just wanted to.
Akia Floyd, who serves with me as a program coordinator. Thank you so very much for organizing this. And we also have Melvin Anderson, who's a part of this session. Melvin works with us as a consultant. He is CEO of Explore Skills, which is located in the DC area. Thank you so very much for Melvin. So you'll see all of these people and many more as you come to Huntsville.
Yes.
Go right ahead, Akia.
I wanted to thank everybody for spending a portion of their afternoon with us as we kick off the pre-summit series. So on your screen, the first QR code is going to be a survey. So if you don't mind, filling that survey out for me and letting me know how you think I did and how you think Ken did, I would really appreciate it. As well as the other QR code is for the UEDA 2025 summit, and it'll have all of the details there. I don't have anything else, so unless anybody has questions, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. I hope to see you at the next session, and I really hope to see you in October for the summit.
Okay, and is Marty still with us? You can close us out. Thank you so very much.
All right. Well, thank you. I put a little note in the chat that kind of says it all. Really excited what we heard. Looking forward to seeing it close up. And I mentioned that we'll have lots of folks coming to Huntsville, some for the first time, but they'll be bringing great practices and ideas to share as well. So it's going to be a real learning environment. So thank you again.